Yeah, what's good? What's good? Let me get one little thing popping, and then we're gonna get this show on the road. Oh yeah, there we go. All right, we're gonna close that out. Yo, what's good with y'all, man? Hope everybody's having a good start to their week. We know it's hump day. What's going on, everybody? My name is A1. You can call me Carlos. You can also call me Dan. I am one half of the dynamic duo that is A Ward and A1. It's the black and white thing featuring A1 and A Ward. You can check out every episode of It's a Black and White Thing by going to the podcast app of your choice, wherever you get the good podcasts. Neff in the building. What up? What up? Wherever you get the good podcasts, give us 5 stars. Give us a like, thumbs up, all that good stuff. Share, leave a comment. YouTube at Brains and Bars. Shout out to everyone who subscribed. Tell a friend to tell a friend. It's those boys again. Hit the notification bell. Leave a comment. Jump in the comments. We talk back to you during the show. If when the episode drops, if you drop in the comments, I normally would jump in there and chop it up with you. I talk to us. We talk back. I'm out here on my solo dolo this week. Shout out to Loso, who was with me last week, guest hosting. Shout out to Ward. Big bro's in town. Shout out to Cannon. Happy birthday, Cannon. Happy born day to Cannon. It's his birthday today. He's in Kansas City with us. So, he's probably hanging out. He's probably hanging out doing his thing with him. Yep. Obviously, state battle rap name Neff, Cadence. What's good? Yes, the Thunder are goated world champs. We're going to talk about that a little bit tonight. We're going to talk NBA finals, lessons from the NBA season that I think teams need to apply for next year. And if I have the time, one quick little take about the NBA finals. What up, Wes? Wes in the building. What up? What up? Or not the NBA finals, but the NBA draft, which again starts in about 45 minutes or so. So let's jump straight into it, man. Lessons learned from this NBA season. First off, let's start off with the NBA finals recap or finishing up the NBA finals. The Oklahoma City Thunder game 7 ended up being a blowout, but was competitive for about 2 and maybe a third quarters. Oklahoma City Thunder captured their first championship while known as the Thunder, the second in the history of the Seattle Supersonics / Oklahoma City Thunder franchise, beating the Indiana Pacers in that 7th game in OKC. First off, let me just say shout out to Indiana. What an incredible season. What an incredible run. Obviously, no one thought that you guys could make it this far. You hate to see what happened to Tyrese Halliburton. One, if not their best player, if he's not 1A, he's 1B. He blows out his Achilles. Everyone said it after he first injured the calf in game 5 that trying to play through it, it could lead to what happened to Kevin Durant in the finals. I believe that was 2019, where he ended up blowing his Achilles, dealing with the calf strain all that time. And so I hate to see that for him. I hate to see it for that franchise. That if you look at the East going into next season, you would think that the Indiana Pacers would have been one of the favorites in the East to represent them in the NBA finals again. Young team with good veteran presence, good role players. And so you hate to see that happen to them, but what a run. What a ride that they took their fan base on. And honestly, the league, right? Like we talked about it on the show of Tyrese looking like a top 5 dead or alive, clutch player with all the shots that he hit down the stretch throughout the playoffs against the Knicks, against the Thunder, against the Cavs, right? I mean, he just hit big shot after big shot. And it seemed like he was primed to have a great game. He was 3 or 4 with 9 points, I think in 7 minutes of action. I heard Obi Toppin say it after the game that seeing him go down, it messed with him mentally. He couldn't get himself right after seeing him on the ground in pain like that. And so, I hate to see that for them. But again, man, golf clap. What a run. What a run. And I'll say this. I do think that the Pacers, if they're able to return intact next year, they're probably a play-in team, but they're going to be a team that's going to make life difficult for you because they are so diverse in terms of who gets the buckets and when they get the buckets. But losing that guy, man, is going to be a huge mountain to climb. And it's, yeah. Yes, yes, Cadence, we do count the 1979 chip for the Seattle Supersonics. Absolutely. Don't let Seattle fans hear that. They're going to be in your mentions. But yeah, so, I hate to see that for them, but to the victor go the spoils, man. And shout out to Oklahoma City. I was on with Mr. Marvin and Brian, the awesome voice, to begin the NBA season. And my pick, I think I went with, I might have said Boston over OKC. I know I had Boston, OKC. I can't remember if I took which one I took, but I felt that this team could make the finals. I felt that they could take the next step. And man, did they take the next step. They were the number 1 seed last year, number 1 seed this year, best point differential of all time, or a best point differential in like 40, 50 years, more turnovers than assists. They generated more turnovers than assists. One of the youngest teams since that 1977, I believe, Blazer team to win a chip. Just the accolades go on and on and on. One of the highest total wins in NBA history. Like 58 double-digit margins of victory. Just an incredible team from top to bottom. And, I am, as someone who is a Russell Westbrook apologist, someone who had developed an affinity for the Thunder because I was a defender of Russell Westbrook from way back. It did my heart good to see Oklahoma City win and finally reach that mountaintop that they had been so close to from that 2012, that 2016 season. I felt bad for the city of Seattle because this was their team that was snatched, that was taken away from them. So I felt a little bit bittersweet for them. But this franchise, and shout out to Sam Presti, man, he has rebuilt this team. He built the OG team that had Russ, Harden, KD, Ibaka. He then, once Kevin Durant leaves on the fly, right, they go and get Paul George, get Melo to try to recreate something around Russell Westbrook. That doesn't work out. And then he rebuilds it a third time with this current iteration of the team, man. And so shout out to the job that Sam Presti has done. One of the greatest team building jobs, if you start from the Durant years to now, that we have seen in professional sports, and the ability to continuously retool, revamp the team, rebuild on the fly, and build a great team. And here's what I find to be interesting about the Thunder. I think that the Thunder, we've seen in the NBA where teams have tried to have like this 2-track system of, we got these veterans, but we also want to try to build young talent around these veterans to keep our dynasty going. And I'm not saying that OKC is going to be a dynasty, but I'm just using that word as I shouldn't say dynasty, but keep the championship window open. The Golden State Warriors, they tried to do this when they went and got James Wiseman, Jordan Poole, and Moses Moody. They tried to have kind of this 2-track system of, we got the big three, Draymond, Clay, Steph. We want to try to bring these young boys around. We think they can be the bridge to keeping this thing going. We saw this in Denver. They let Bruce Brown walk. They wouldn't go Christian Braun. They get Julian Strawther, right? They go and get these younger guys in hopes of trying to keep things going, and they were not successful. And so the Oklahoma City Thunder, who I believe have like something like 13 potential first-round draft picks over the next 3 to 4 years, they have the ability to do this 2-track system right, because all of their players are still young. Right, you still have a young man in, obviously SGA is, I don't think he's 28 yet. J-Dub is under 25. Chet under 25. Case and Wallace is only in his second year as a role player. Aaron Wiggins, still fairly young, right? So if you go up and down their roster, as you've heard it said countless times, Alex Caruso is the oldest player on their team. I think he's the only one who's in his 30s. So they have the opportunity to continue to develop the talent that they have now and build upon that and be a true juggernaut of sorts. Now, that comes with the caveat, though. And it harkens back to the first great building job that Sam Presti did when you think back to Harden and Ibaka and Russ and KD. Right? 2012, they make it to the finals, or 2012, they make it to the finals, and everyone's thinking, okay, they lost to the Warriors or to the Heat, but they got an opportunity to build on that and continue to be a thing. However, James Harden's deal, he only had 1 year left on his deal, and he was engaged in extension talks with the Oklahoma City Thunder. They offered him a near max deal, and James Harden didn't want the deal. Right. I read an article about this, that James Harden had spent time on the Olympic team that year in 2012 after they lost to the Heat. He got around Chris Paul, he got around LeBron James, and he heard how they were talking about being the guy on their team, and that, or as the reporting said, they encouraged him to seek to be that guy. Now, first things first, sometimes you gotta whisper, you gotta be wary of people who's whispering in your ear. I'm pretty sure Chris and Bron and whoever else meant well, but some of that is, we can't let these three stay together, because they stay together, they pose a huge challenge for us. That's number one. But number two, be that as it may, that talk got into his head, and he wanted to be the man. So it did not matter to James if they gave him the max or not. He was out the door. He was leaving. He was gone, right? And so the Thunder might face a similar situation in a few years when Chet comes up, his deal comes up, and when Jalen Williams' deal comes up. Will Jalen and Chet, do they want to be Klay Thompson, or do they want to be James Harden? Now, what do I mean when I say Klay Thompson? Klay Thompson, regarded as the second greatest shooter of all time behind his former teammate Steph Curry, he was faced with a similar dilemma of sorts, right? When his deal came up, you're already a champion. You've already achieved greatness. You've already been to the mountaintop. People at that time was regarding Klay pre-injury as one of the best two-way players in the league, one of the best wing defenders and scorers and offensive players in the league, right? So Klay had a choice to make. I can go strike out and be my own man. I got a chip in hand, maybe two. I can't remember when his deal came up, at least 2 chips in hand. I can take these 2 chips, bounce, go become my own guy, see if I can lead a team to a chip, or I can take a little bit less, stay with this team, and see if we can continue building on this dynasty. And he made that decision to stay, right? Klay stayed until finally Golden State said, we got to move on. We got to turn the page to this next generation. And so Chet and J-Dub are going to have a serious fork in the road, a sliding glass door moment, if you will, of what do they do? Do they stay in Oklahoma City for maybe a little bit less than the max so that the team can continue to build around that trio? Or do they say, we got a chip, maybe 2 in hand, I want to go be my own man, I want to see if I can be the SGA for another franchise and lead them to a championship? And I think that is going to be the fascinating thing about this team, because how does Sam Presti, is he having these conversations with these young men now? There's rumors of they're trying to package their 2 first-round draft picks now to move up to, I think, like maybe the top 10 or the back end of the lottery. How does he navigate that situation with them? Does he give them the max and say, okay, that means we can't re-sign Lou Dort in a couple of years when his deal comes up, because we have given so much of our cap space to these top 3? Because this new CBA makes it they wanted to try to keep big threes from happening, but what the owners didn't realize is that what happens when a team organically, which is basically what OKC did, right? Traded for SGA. No one thought he would be this. But then you draft Lou Dort, you draft Chet, you draft J-Dub, right? And I think on their team, Chet is the only one who was like a top 5 pick. Everyone else is either back half of the top 10, lottery, late first, second round. And so, he's done a great job in roster construction, but he's going to face that fork in the road with those 2 young men again. Will he be forced to make a decision? Will they force his hand and say, we want to go be the guys on our own team? And so, again, there's a decision that waits for Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren. Do you want to be Klay Thompson? Or do you want to be James Harden? And what would y'all do if y'all were in that position? Do you want to stay with the team that can help you win championships, or do you want to try to pull a James Harden or Kyrie Irving? Right, Kyrie wanted to be his own man as well, and that's why he left Cleveland. Do you want to be those guys and try to be your own man, or do you want to stay and win the championship? So y'all let me know, man. But one last thing I want to bring up about OKC before I jump into these 5 things that I learned from this year in the NBA. So after the championship, they've done all their preliminary interviews with ABC, ESPN, and they're now in the locker room. They're kicking it, and you see the scenes in the locker room where they're like, "Yo, Alex, how do we pop this bottle? I don't know what I'm doing." They talked about, there was some of these guys' first times drinking beer. They didn't like it. They did request tequila, which, let me just, as a quick rabbit trail here, very good taste, gentlemen. I'm not an avid drinker myself, but I'll take a shot of tequila from time to time if you offer it to me. I'm not gonna turn it down. I like the way tequila tastes. Beer is trash, and I hate when people say to me, "Well, beer's an acquired taste." Okay, but and my rebuttal is, guys, when I acquire the beer, it needs to taste good the first time. Whatever food I'm eating, whether it be exotic or just regular old American bar food or drinks, the first time I bite into something or sip on a drink, it needs to taste good. I don't need to acquire the taste. I shouldn't have to drink 3/4 of something or eat 3/4 of something before I go, okay, yeah, it tastes good now. No, it needs to taste good the moment my taste buds encounter it. Hit me with your best shot. Ain't that what the song said? Hit me with your best shot. You get one shot with me. And I have not tasted a beer yet that I went, yeah, that's what's up. Every single last one of them, trash. Oh, have you tried this? No, I don't want to, because I know it's going to be trash. But I digress, right? But in the locker room, they don't know how to pop the bottles. They're asking Caruso to teach them how to do it. Caruso won a chip with the Lakers in the bubble. And it had this take dawn upon me as I watched them struggle to open up those champagne bottles. OKC not knowing how to pop champagne after winning a title is an indictment on American sports obsession with winning titles. I'm going to say that again. The Oklahoma City Thunder not understanding how to pop bottles after winning a chip is an indictment of our culture's obsession with winning. Here's what I mean. In American sports, we only care about the bottom line. We don't care, what you did in the first round. We don't truly care too much about the second, third. But once you get to the title game, we are a culture that punishes you more for losing in the title round than we do for losing in earlier rounds. Unless you were a big favorite, right? If you were a big favorite, think when the We Believe Warriors beat the Dallas Mavericks in like 2008, 2009, somewhere in there, right? When they did that, we remember the failure of the Mavericks because they were the 1 seed, right? I think it's 94 where the Denver Nuggets shocked the Seattle Supersonics. We remember when teams who are heavy favorites failed to meet expectation, and we bashed them for that. But normally, if you make it to a title game and you lose, we kill you as if you lost in the first round, right? And so if American teams were allowed to celebrate their accomplishments and their victories before the title rounds, if the Oklahoma City Thunder were allowed to pop bottles when they won their division, when they clinched the 1 seed, when they won their first round game, semifinals, Western Conference Finals, if they had the opportunity to pop bottles and celebrate. By the time they get to the championship, they would have been all over the place with it. They would have been going crazy. It was like the Ghostbusters. Woo! This is gonna look crazy if somebody decides to mean that, but I don't care. I'm not a pause guy. But I'm just saying, like, they would have been fully well prepared to pop bottles if they were allowed to celebrate their accomplishments, but they can't, because if they do that, then it's, well, what are you doing that for? You're supposed to beat the Grizzlies. You're supposed to beat the Nuggets. You got the presumptive MVP. They hadn't announced the MVP yet. You got the presumptive MVP. You're supposed to beat them. Oh man, the Timberwolves aren't that good. They only beat the Warriors because Steph got hurt, right? And then people lightly didn't give Indiana a chance. So they were supposed to be. So at every step of the way, the Thunder don't get to feel like they're actually achieving things. They're just checking things off a box because you're expected to win, because you're the 1 seed, because you were the 1 seed last year, because you were so dominant. And so I think sometimes what happens when we just heap expectations and we don't stop and allow these players and give them time to smell the roses, to truly bask in for more than just 24 hours the thing that they have accomplished, I think you get guys like AJ Brown. Now, I don't know if you guys saw this, but after the Eagles beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl and they win their championship, they avenged their earlier loss about 3 years ago to the Chiefs. AJ Brown wrote a letter that said, you know what? I thought when I got to the mountaintop that I would feel differently. I thought I would feel more accomplished. I thought I would feel more happy. But he said, I got there and there was nothing. I just wanted to go back to work again. And again, we have done a terrible job in our society, not just in sports, but in life in general, of building people up that when they accomplish something, whether it is the greatest accomplishment of all time or whether it's just some small victory, we simply look at people and say, especially athletes, and say, what you want, a cookie? That's what you're supposed to do. That's what you get paid to do. You're supposed to win. You're supposed to be great. You're supposed to be. And yes, they have those expectations. And yes, for those great players, we should expect that of them. But we do not give our great athletes flowers enough. Right? And I'm going to touch on this topic in another video at some point. But you want to know what sport gets it right? What sport celebrates at every turn? It's baseball. Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball, they pop in beer when they win when they clinch divisions. They got T-shirts when they win the wild card. They got T-shirts for the divisional as well as the league championship series. And then obviously they celebrate every step of the way because they understand that this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's 162 games. It's in the hot sun. Day in, day out. It's playing when you don't feel like it, when you don't want to. It's getting through the slumps when you're in an 0-for-25 slump, when you've been hitless in 5 games, when the pitching is just seemingly giving up runs every day. It is the accumulation of all that effort resulting in victories, and they celebrate every step of the way. But if you do that in any other sport, you're seen as you're a loser. How dare you? How dare you be excited that you won a divisional wild card game? Matter of fact, in the NBA, when the Timberwolves won the playoff game in 2022 to clinch the 7th seed, and you got Pat Bev standing on the scores table going crazy, crowd going crazy. We ridiculed them. We made fun of that. That is a meme now of Pat Bev standing on that scorer's table. But if you go and look at Minnesota's history, that was only the second time they had made the playoffs in the last 19 years. They made that Western Conference final run with KG. The team went in the tank, and a few years later, KG was in Boston. They made the playoffs again in 2017. That 1 year Jimmy Butler was there, lost as an 8 seed, and then they went back into the tank until that year where they clinched. When they clinched the play-in spot at the number 7 seed. Shout out to my uncle. He says I wasn't agreeing with your point at first, but you changed my mind. I appreciate that. So again, like these athletes put their lives, I don't want, maybe that's too far to say their lives on the line, but they work their tails off to be great because nobody wants to suck. Nobody wants to be bad at what they do. And so we, as the sporting public, we should celebrate, we should applaud, we should push them to celebrate. Now, you don't want to get too caught up in the rat poison, as Nick Saban would call it when he coached at Alabama. You don't want to get too swept up in the praise because then you start to rest on your laurels. But we should allow them to celebrate just a little bit more. And we should applaud them when they clinch divisions because, yes, it might be expected of your team to dominate or to win their division, but it is not a given. It's earned. So when they clinch their division, they earn that. When they win a series, they earn that. And when they finally make it to the culmination of all their efforts and their reward is they earned it. And so we should show just a little bit more appreciation, in my opinion. But y'all let me know what y'all think, man. What y'all think about that? Hit us up at Brains and Bars, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, all the social medias, man. Hit us up. So that's real quick. I want to turn to the things that I've learned in particular while watching these NBA playoffs, the things that I feel like that if you are a general manager, owner, whatever your position is within the NBA, you should take these lessons from this season and apply them to 2025 going forward because the draft starts in about 24 minutes, I guess is when the coverage kicks off, right? So a bunch of young men whose lives are going to change tonight. Congratulations to those young men. I hope that they are successful beyond their wildest dreams. All right. So here's the first thing I learned by watching the NBA playoffs or watching this NBA season. First off, teams greater than superstars, right? And so I mentioned this earlier when talking about Oklahoma City and about the team that they've put together. This new CBA that I mentioned, it makes it really the days of you putting together a big three of where we're going to go trade for LeBron, or we're going to go sign Chris Bosh, we're going to sign LeBron James and have Dwayne Wade all on one squad. Those days are done. The CBA is not going to allow you to put those types of teams together. And if you do, you're going to be asking me to come off the bench as a sixth or seventh man. Like, this is just what it is. Like, you're not going to be able to get really good players on the margins. And the thing that you saw during these playoffs is that you can't just go 5 or 6 to 7 deep in your rotation. You got to go a minimum of 8, maybe 9, sometimes 10 players deep if your team wants to have a true chance at winning a title, because Oklahoma City, deep team. Indiana, obviously, they were able to bring multiple players off the bench. And while you had your stars, right, while you had your SGAs, you had your Jalen Williams, you had your Pascal Siakams, you had your Tyrese Halliburtons, right? And you can go on and keep naming star after star after star. There were games where TJ McConnell is 5 for 5. I mean, he's looking like he's the best player on the floor. You have games where Andrew Wiggins has scored like 10 points in 5 or 6 minutes for OKC, right? You have Naz Reid for the Timberwolves who's on fire, right? You have these guys who Shaq likes to refer to as the others. I hate that, but the others, the ones who are not the name, the faces, the supporting actors in this role play, who are coming in and doing their thing, right? And so if you are trying to build a squad, and this CBA is really trying to create parity so that you can't keep teams together, you got to be able to have a top 1 guy, maybe a 1B, 1A, 1B, because that's what Indiana had, 1A, 1B, but then you got to have a solid number 2, a solid number 3, a solid number 4. And then when you go into that bench, you got to have guys that you can rely on, that can make some plays, that are going to have the TJ McConnell game, because that's what game 5 was, or game 6, excuse me, for the Pacers was. That's the TJ McConnell game. Hallie gets hurt. They needed a spark, and he does his thing. And listen, had they won game 7, TJ McConnell was killing them in game 7 too. He was the only one who scored, I believe, for a long stretch in that third quarter of Game 7. So you've got to have a bench now. It's no longer just about being a top-heavy roster. And so if you're gonna have a shot at a title, your starting five can probably win you a round in the playoffs. It might win you two, but it's not gonna get you past a team that's got some depth in those later rounds. You know, let me move on to the next point here. Point number 2 of things that I've learned during this NBA season, and particularly these playoffs. Defense is bike. I'm saying it like Plies. Defense is bike. It's bike, y'all. Like, I don't know what the ratings for, and let me just say first, I don't really care too greatly what the ratings were for the NBA during the entirety of the playoffs, but they had to be pretty high in that first round because you had fantastic finishes. You had teams coming back from 20-point deficits. But even beyond that, you had a level of physicality that the NBA likes to turn, that the referees like to flip a switch with about maybe, say, 15 games to go. They flip a switch where they say, go in the paint at your own peril. Because unless you come out of there bleeding profusely, which we had that happen during these playoffs, unless you come out of there bleeding like you just got done with a TLC match in WWE with Cactus Jack, we not calling Jack. We don't care, right? And so the rules start to change. They start to allow more physical play. They start to allow teams to be more handsy, to grab, to hack a little bit more. And so if you are going to be a team who's going to win a title in this era, you better, one, have players who can physically withstand that beating, who mentally can withstand that beating they're going to get, and who can finish through contact on a pretty regular clip if you're going to compete for a championship in the NBA right now. Because again, it looked like prison ball. Shout out to my homie Cotton, man. Cotton is I don't know if he still does refereeing, but at a point in his life, he was a referee. And when he would ref our rec league games, we loved Cotton, just not when he was calling our games. Because we would go in there driving the lane and you can hear the smack. You can hear it. Where the whistle, Cotton? And he looking at me like, play ball. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So if you are going to compete, Orlando's got a team that can play some defense. Houston has a team that can defend. Indiana, quiet as it's kept, can defend. OKC, obviously. If you're going to compete for a championship, you better have a team that can get down and dirty in these playoffs and be ready to defend that paint with your life, because that is how you're going to win. Yes, offense wins championship. Offense can help you win a championship, but defense in the NBA will definitely, and this NBA will definitely lead to a championship. My next thing that I learned during this season, the death of the mid-range has been greatly exaggerated, man. Listen, I am a fake analytics nerd. Me and math don't get along that greatly, but, I work in middle management as it will. And one thing you learn as being in middle management is delegation, delegation, delegation. You lean on other people to get things done so that you don't have to do it yourself. That's why you're the boss. That's why they pay you the medium-sized bucks. All right. And so one thing I do is I rely on all the great writers and content creators out here to go find all these analytic stats. And then I get a chance to regurgitate them and spit them to my friends. And they look at me like, oh man, you know a lot about basketball. And I go, yeah, I do, don't I? You should tune into the show called It's a Black and White Thing. I think it's pretty good. I think you could learn something if you tune in. So anyway, analytics has said that the 3-point shot and the layup are the most important shots in basketball. Mid-range shots are the devil. We don't want those. No. Death to mid-range. But if you watch in these playoffs, Oklahoma City utilized that mid-range. Indiana utilized that mid-range. Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, mid-range monsters. Cade Cunningham, mid-range monster. Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner of the Magic. Guys who got to their spots in the mid-range. Even a guy like Anthony Edwards, who led the league in 3-point makes this year. You saw at points in these playoffs where he would get into that mid-range area and he was deadly, because he could get to a spot and he can get his shot. That is what makes To me, that's the thing that unlocks a player like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and makes him so difficult to defend, because he's not a great three-point shooter. He's a decent three-point shooter, but you got to respect the shot. But the fact that he is so deadly in that middle part of the floor allows him, one, to find cutters, shooters, but he can also freeze you. Obviously, he's a very physical player. He can freeze you with his footwork, get to a spot, rise up, get a shot off, or he can blow by you if you're too hesitant because you're looking for that mid-range shot and get to the rim. And then he can also hit you with a step back, and he's getting a shot. Like, the mid-range is here to stay, people. We have been told, we've been fed a lie. We didn't land on the mid-range shot. The mid-range shot landed on us. We have been fed lies and propaganda by the media that told us that this isn't a good shot, that this shot is dead. It is not, people. It is alive. It is here to stay. And if you want to be an effective scorer, especially in the playoffs, where, again, as I just said, you go into that paint at your own peril because you might not get the calls you were getting in November, December, January, February, and you're not a great three-point shooter, or that three-point shot isn't falling, that mid-range is going to be your best friend, and you better rely on it. All right, so I might have said I had 5 points, but I think I only got 4. So let me see. We went through teams over superstars, defense is back, the death of the mid-range has been greatly exaggerated. So I actually got 4 points. This is my last point, and I'm about to get up out of here. So I want to start before I give you the point, I want to give you a little bit of a story here. So I don't know about y'all, but I was talking to my son before I came in here, and I was telling him about, how young people, I mean, technology is great, but there are certain things that you miss out on because of the internet. And one of those things is if you are a fan of music, or maybe let's just say movies, whatever, pre-internet, word of mouth is how you found out about how great an artist was. I want to use artists for this example. So I'm a millennial, early millennial. I'm the bridge between, the internet being a thing and it not being a thing, right? So my brother called me one day at work, and he says, "Yo, did you know Wheelchair Jimmy's trying to rap?" I said, "Word? Wheelchair Jimmy from Degrassi? He trying to rap?" He's like, "Yeah, bro. Yeah, man. He got a mixtape out called Room for Improvement, man. They call, like, he don't curse on there, nothing. It's all clean. Like, you should check it out." I said, "All right, cool." So I checked it out. Decent little tape. Like as the title suggests, Room for Improvement. Time goes on. He releases Comeback Season. And I'm like, yo, this kid might actually have a future at this for real, right? And so at this point in time, between Comeback Season and the So Far Gone mixtape, he connects with Wayne. He's rapping with Wayne on records. And so at this point, I am now going around and telling people about Drake. Yo, I'm telling my homies, yo, it's a dude named Drake, man. I don't know if you watched Degrassi or not. We were a little bit older, so Degrassi wasn't our thing. I did watch with my little brother and became a fan of the show through him. Yo, check this dude out. His name is RB Drake Graham, but he goes by Drake. He was in Degrassi. If you ever, he might have been one of the first memes of him getting shot in that show. But anyway, it's not here nor there. Check him out. He got a mixtape dropping called So Far Gone. I'm telling y'all, he next, bro. He next. He nice. Blah, 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 blah. So Far Gone drops, and then the rest is history, right? Like, he blows up. And so to you young people, because of the internet, because things go viral so quickly, it is rare you're going to be on the front end of witnessing an artist blow up before your eyes, where you follow them on this journey of no one knows who they are. They're complete unknowns, and you watch the growth and development of this artist as they acquire a larger and larger fan base, and then the song that takes them out of here, right? Nowadays, people, go viral in part for being just as bad as they are good, right? And they're and like Twista, they're celebrity overnight, right? So I bring this up to say this, to bring my final point. The NBA media, NBA itself and its media partners need to do a better job at promoting the stars that are in every city, not just New York, LA, Miami, whatever other big markets you want to name that are in the league. Because you never know when you could be watching the next Kendrick, Drake, J. Cole, whatever big star you care to name, right? If you've been following their careers and you watch their progression, you never know who you have, what you have on your hands. Oklahoma City did not see SGA becoming a star. And maybe, listen, SGA might be a fringe superstar. Superstar for me is a really hard title to acquire, but SGA has a signature shoe that I think looks really nice. He's got a really big fan base. He's the man for life in Oklahoma City. He's got national commercials. The only thing that I don't know about SGA is, are people buying tickets to go see him play or travel? Like, I took my son for his birthday to go see LeBron James because he likes LeBron. Are people doing that for him? If people do that, he's a superstar in my book. But in the golden era of the NBA, which is the 80s and 90s, in my opinion, media made you care about players in San Antonio, markets like Salt Lake City, Utah, Charlotte, North Carolina, Indiana, Detroit, which is a pretty decent sized TV market. But in the 80s and the 90s, the NBA made you care about teams in places that are not huge media markets. Now, mind you, New York, LA, always going to be around because of their New York and LA, right? You had Jordan and the Bulls. Jordan is a global icon, a global phenomenon. But when you look across the NBA right now, you have budding stars in Detroit, Oklahoma City, Orlando, Indiana. Melo Ball has not had any on-court success in terms of winning, but LaMelo Ball is a social media superstar. And so if that team ever can be anything, play-in team or higher, his profile could, even though he is a huge star online, and that preceded him before he got into the league, he still could use a boost. I spent part of my time this year tweeting at NBA and Adam Silver, hey, you should put the Houston Rockets on TV more. You should put the Memphis Grizzlies on TV more. You should put Detroit, and I've said this on the show several times, the Detroit Pistons were top 3 most entertaining teams in the league this season, simply because at just about every time I turned my TV on to watch their games, in the fourth quarter, it was a 5-point game or less. They were going to overtime, multiple overtimes, game-winning shots, coming down to the end, to the very last minute. But you would not have known that if you turned on ESPN or you watched Fox Sports 1 or you saw, NBA media online does a good job of promoting. But their media partners did not do a great job of promoting the stars in these smaller cities, budding stars, and putting a bug in people's ear and saying, like I did with my homies with Drake, yo, this person might be next up. They might be the truth. And so when you got to finally watch Detroit play the Knicks in a series, and you're introduced to Cade Cunningham, for a lot of people for the first time, you're playing catch up. People didn't know. Indiana started off really bad. I think they were 10-15 at the early part of the season. And once the calendar hit 2025, they ascended. They took off. The Houston Rockets, they were a team who took off. But you would not have known that if you turned on the TV and watched the content from the league's media partners. The NBA has a bunch of great talent in a bunch of cities that are not large markets that they could do a better job of promoting, so that when we get to the playoffs, when we get to crunch time, like, listen, next year, when we get into this NBA Cup, there are enough names that I named from these cities where they should be boosting these guys up, that the NBA Cup becomes something that you care about, regardless, even if it's not the Larry O'Brien. Excuse me. these things become a big deal when your media treats it like a big deal. That goes hand in hand with how people talked about the finals and how the presentation wasn't made to be a big deal. In the 80s and 90s, they made you care about these teams. They made you care about Stockton and Malone. I don't know if they would do that today. And so my last time, I just want to reiterate it one last time. NBA media, ESPN, Fox Sports 1, Amazon, NBC. Y'all got to do a good job of shining the spotlight on these players because you don't know who the next superstar could be. And if you shine a light on enough of them, someone's going to hit. Last point I want to make about this. When you think about the NFL, the thing that I love about the NFL will make you care if when CJ Stroud jumps on the scene, when Jaden Daniels jumps on the scene, you don't hear Stephen A. Smith get on TV and go, well, who cares? They're the Commanders. They're the Texans. They're not going to win the championship. We're not going to waste time talking about them. We're going to talk about the Chiefs, or we're going to talk about the Cowboys. We're going to talk about whoever. When a player becomes a star in the NFL, and to bring this full circle, this whole podcast, they are pumping them up at every chance you get. Social media, TV, they're getting stories done about them. They're having sit-down interviews that are being broadcasted nationally because the NFL somehow understands something that maybe the NBA used to understand but doesn't, that we make the stars here. And if we talk about them enough, you're going to think they're a star too. So again, here are the things I learned this year just to bring everything home. Teams over superstars. Defenses bike. The depth of the mid-range has been greatly exaggerated, and the NBA media partners have to do a better job to promote its stars in every city, not just the large markets. And I'm going to close out with this comment here. It's not going to help that the NBA is going to prime. They're going to put the Rockets, Pistons, and Grizzlies on prime. So I'll say this to close, and I'm about to get out of here. I am not a fan of how the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball are taking their games and putting them behind paywalls. If I want to watch the Royals, I got to pay, a fee to watch them. I hate having to go to Netflix to watch football games, Prime to go to. It makes it hard to find where everything is. I've got to get online and do this search. Whereas 30 years ago, I knew TNT, ESPN, ABC, right? If you go even back further, NBC. But here's the thing. Here's the thing I will say that is going to help the NBA is the fact that the NBA will be back on NBC. Yes, they're going to put games on Peacock. I don't love that. But the fact that you're going to have games on regular TV that doesn't require a cable subscription, because I think the thing that we take for granted in this country is that streaming is a privilege and not it's a privilege. It's not a right. It's like I would be shocked to know that there are people in this country who don't have Wi-Fi, but that is a reality, and not just for a small segment of the population. There are a lot of people who are going to Starbucks, who are going to Panera, who are going to McDonald's to use the Wi-Fi because they don't have it in their home, right? Part of the reason I have said that I would never be without cable is because growing up as a kid, we didn't have it. And so I couldn't watch the TNT game, so I feel left out in the conversations. Like, there are people who this is happening. There are young kids who are into sports who cannot access because their parents can't afford to get a streaming service. And so you're leaving them behind. But what I do like about the NBA is that they are going to be on NBC. And so if they lean into that nostalgia, if they lean into that for the people like us who are older, who remember the NBA on NBC and how games appearing on that channel, you knew it was a big game on Sunday when it was the NBA on NBC. If they lean into that nostalgia for the old folks like us, but also the ability for the young kids to see a game where you don't have to have a streaming login and password. You don't have to have a cable subscription, where you can just get on regular TV and see the stars of tomorrow. That's going to go a long way. And that's the thing that helps the NFL, right? Because at least once a week, You can turn on CBS, NBC, Fox, and you can see your favorite team or maybe a team in another market that you might like on your TV. That's the thing that is, to me, has helped the NFL. One of the reasons why they are king now is because the majority of their games are being broadcasted on over-the-air network TV. So, again, hopefully that helps NBC. Shout out to them for making that move and putting more games on the stations where people who don't require subscriptions. Last thing out the door, shout out to the Royals too. They actually are showing some games on regular network TV. So I appreciate that as well. But last thing I want to say about the draft, because the draft is getting ready to kick off and I am about to get out of here. As I talked about earlier, with the changes in the rules and how they do things, I do wonder if this will force teams to pick more finished products versus players who have potential. This makes me think of Ace Bailey. Ace Bailey is projected to slide in part because there are concerns about maturity. He's also stated that he doesn't want to play for certain teams. I think the Wizards, Pelicans were one of them. He canceled a workout with the Philadelphia 76ers. And so it makes me wonder with this new CBA, which basically makes it so that you have to draft and develop talent. It makes me wonder if the NBA advisory board is going to start telling these kids, because of NIL, because they can make money in college now, if they're going to advise some guys who have potential but need more work to go back to school, for fringe prospects to go back to school to get a little bit more seasoning, so that way when they come into the league, you're not just picking players strictly off potential and what you hope they will be, but you're picking players based off what they've shown you. I could be wrong about this. The NBA is really big on potential. But I wonder if that's going to shift and change. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that. And with that, that has been my time, man. I appreciate y'all tuning in with me. Please remember, you can check out every episode of It's a Black and White Thing by going to the podcast app of your choice, wherever you get the good podcasts. Give us 5 stars, leave a comment, share those broadcasts. You can also check us out on YouTube. I try to go live at least once a week, somewhere between Tuesday and Thursday. Hit the notification bell at Brains and Bars. Leave a like, leave a comment, tell a friend it's those boys again. And you can check us out on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok at Brains and Bars. Until next time, it's been a Black and White Thing, man. Y'all be easy. Have a good night. Have a good weekend. Stay safe. And I'll holler at y'all, man.